Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Quake Pro League. Another day, another week, another broadcast that we will be guiding you through. I'm joined once again by the wonderful Harry Lethal. How you doing, Harry?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Another weekly instalment as usual with some great matches coming up. Should be some good stuff today.
It should be, mate. It's always a pleasure with you, never a chore, and I can't wait to see what the games are going to be like. So, I suppose we should delve straight into the schedule and see what is going to be coming up tonight. Of course, as usual, we have a whole host of bangers, and we're starting with a fantastic lineup of 4 games to kick off the day, Harry.
Absolutely no complaints from me. Avek versus CNZ should be a good one to see how things will pan out throughout the course of the evening. And a few others there. Cooler versus Sparty. You have to see how Cooler can do compared to what he's been doing in previous weeks. We haven't seen the top of his game recently, so hopefully he can show up during that match against Sparty. And even the GNet versus Nosfer, they played against each other last time in the Stage 3 finals. So that's kind of going to be a rematch from a few weeks back. So, yes, there's some good way to start things off today.
Yeah, we got some good games. I think Avek and CNZ as well. That's a bit of a classic throwback to kick off the day, right? There's some gems there thrown into the mix with the first 4. We do also have some games coming up a little bit later on in tonight's broadcast, towards the later end as well, that we can have a look at, and that will be our last 3 games. Obviously, we won't have Rafa play tonight. He is taking some time off for himself. His matches will be played at a later date, so he's not disqualified. He's not gone. He's just taking some time to obviously continue on, Harry, before he's ready to rejoin and carry on with the league.
Yeah, that's right. And as you saw from those last 3 matches, some absolute belters there. And can't wait to see, like I said before, Avek versus CNZ to start off with. But the next 3, you can't really predict what could actually happen. Like the Hang versus Chain. Chain's been continually progressing over time and he's getting better and better. The Hang has been, I wouldn't say he's dramatically improved or he's got worse. He's kind of like in that middle ground, the purgatory area where he's stabilized and he's made some little improvements here and there, but we're going to have to see what he can do against Chain later on. And I think it was Razy versus Base as well, another cracker of a game.
Yeah, no, that's actually a pretty good one. Like game 5, as you were saying, Hang versus Chain, because that's also the throwback to the Stage 3 finals, right? And what we saw in the bracket play, where Chain was then knocked out by Hang, and that was his last hurdle to get himself quite deep into the tournament. So could be an interesting game. Let's have a look at the standings overall, though, and look how the rest of our competitors actually match up against one another right now.
Rafa, as usual, top of the leaderboard. Don't know why we say it every time because we've pretty much adjusted to that by now, but Kilson increased it since then. But there's a few other changes we've got to look for today. So we said about Razy and Base earlier. They could switch sides in terms of the point system depending on the circumstances of who comes out on top in that series. And again, Chain as well, he's been looking for trying to get a few points on the board. Try and overtake Cooler if he can later on. If he does beat the Hang, of course.
Yeah, it's still a good amount of North American representation in that top 10, which is fantastic. It means we have always seen that sort of paradigm shift of the true side of Europe versus NA developing more and more over the course of the Quake Pro League. Obviously, this is a big talking point about that as well, Harry, as we're into our last stage before what would have been the QuakeCon showdown for the belt, right? So it's interesting, the 10 that we now have in that top 10.
Yeah, there's no tomfoolery at all going into this stage. Like you mentioned before, if it was like 10 years ago, it would be mostly EU players there, probably like 8 out of 10, something like that in the top 10. But to see at least 4 now, it's a good sign for the NA scene overall in the Americas section.
Yeah, it is. It definitely means there's been a lot of development. We've seen that with some of the players we've been highlighting as well, Chain, Gear. But at this point, there's too many to count, right? Because everyone's been on the up and up. Let's bring it back to something a little bit more localized, though, between us two, Harry. A European matchup to start us off with our opening game of the day. Avek, the Polish Punisher, the Prince of Team Endpoint, of course, going up against CNZ. That will be our first banger of the day. How are you feeling about that one?
This should be a tasty one to start off with. We know what Avek is like. He's more than capable of actually beating a lot of the top EU players with his unorthodox style, his aggression, and how his play style kind of affects other people's depending on the scenario of certain situations. But with CNZ, I think the problem with him a few months ago, and of course he's now back in the Quake Pro League, he would focus more on other people's mistakes rather than his own. So he's trying to find out what he could do against other players rather than working on himself. But you can see he's realised now what he needs to do in order to try and change that. But Avek, we know he's more than capable of what he's up to, because in previous stages, he's just barely stayed out of relegation or been in that relegation kind of area. but we know that there's a lot more style to him than what meets the eye. He can definitely play much more than what his placement actually says.
Certainly, I think so. Obviously, he was disheartened with his placement over at the Stage 3 finals as well. He made that quite vocally clear on Twitter. So I feel like he's going to want to prove a lot throughout the course of this season. His opponent, however, is someone that has been a really hot topic of debate about the fact that we never should have even seen him leave the Pro League, Harry. CNZ is damn good. And I feel like we're only starting to crack the surface once again of how good he could be.
I would say he's an incredible player. I'm not too sure what other people may think of him, but he's definitely up there with not the best of the best as of yet. It's like I mentioned before, a few months ago, he was more trying to work on what he can do against other players, like in terms of their faults rather than his own. But I think he's come to realise that now in terms of his individual ability. We've seen, I would say, a new version of CNZ, and these two haven't played against each other since, I think, around Stage 2, where CNZ actually won 2-1, which is not something which most people would expect, in all fairness.
No, that is an interesting result, especially when, normally a lot of people mind Avek was still up there as the big favourites. Potentially, that actually adds a bit more weight to the storyline going into this one. Then I'm curious of how this might actually go down, Harry. What are your first thoughts on the matchup as a whole?
Oh, it's a difficult one. It depends how Avek plays, really, not really CNZ. We know what he's capable of. We know what he can actually do. But Avek definitely has the tools and the ingredients he needs to topple him. It's just a matter of how, and maybe I think more depends on the map choices he has and in terms of the champions and what he can actually do with them. If Avek played maybe like back in Stage 3, how he played against Kilson, then yeah, I feel like CNZ will really struggle, by no means necessary. But if he plays like he has done recently, it depends. He hasn't had the best start, but then again, he played against Cypher, one of his good friends. It was pretty much destruction in terms of Cypher end anyway, but we'll have to see. But Avek needs this win. To be fair, they both need this win just to start off with, because it's still early days yet.
It really is. It's only week 3. There's a whole lot that could go down. Let's get into the vetoes then and have a look how the series as a whole will actually play out with the picks and bans on the champions and the maps. Looks like we're kicking it off on Blood Run. Avek coming out on the home turf there. Ranger versus Galena as the first 2 picks for Blood Run, Harry.
Ranger, I would say a common pick from what we've seen in previous matches in the past. But Galena, we used to see her a lot back probably about a year ago or 6 months ago. But it's quite rare we see her now and again on Blood Run, because we know the obvious spots of where the totems could be and how they could be used. But Runes of Sarnoff will be one of the most interesting ones to come out with, because with Strog, anyone who's good with a slide champion has even more of a wide variety in terms of strategy and what they can do due to the higher speed rate and where they can actually get across the map. They've got more options in terms of how they want to execute their opponent in certain scenarios. But you got to remember, Avek does have the Anarchy, so that could switch some things up here. But on Molten Falls, you've got Avek again, who's using Eisen, which is going to be quite an interesting one. But seeing said with the BJ, not really too different there. We've seen him picked quite a lot. It's part of the meta, so pretty standard for most of the matchups.
Yeah, nothing too really crazy. I suppose Molten Falls could be a bit of a fun one towards the end to close this down. Map pool wise, it is fairly standard. I would have liked to have seen the Woken thrown into the mix, but I'll let it slip away from us this time, Harry. So Blood Run to kick us off then. Ranger versus Kalena being the opening bout. It's hard to call. I mean, in that sense, right, you look at this matchup as a whole, we know that Avek certainly has sort of been putting the hours back in. He's been grinding to try and find that form. I think this is a very even matchup between the both of them. Just individually, they are quite close currently in terms of the skill ceiling. I genuinely feel like this could be one of our first 2-1s of the day, just to start us off a long affair rather than a straight 3-0 or anything of the sort, Harry.
Well, you know me, Jack. I love a close affair anyway. I don't want it to be just a 3-0 or anything like that. But I'm just interested in what CNZ is going to do with the Galena. I mentioned before, like quite a while ago, we saw Galena quite a bit here and there. But you can see with those totems, he knows he's not... With Blood Run, it's extremely rare to have all 3 totems up, depending on the circumstance. It depends on his routes, on where he exactly goes. If he's behind, we're going to see him quite a lot at the tellies. He's going to be in the nail gun room. He's going to be hiding around those spots. So I think his opponent's going to know where the totems are consistently throughout the course of the entire game. But not only that, he's more doing it not just for the 50 HP each time, and then trying to get the 3 totems up for additional HP. It's more the case of the info. If he's got a lead, he could put totems in maybe more common basic spots to at least find out exactly where Avek could be going, and it'll give him maybe not just rely on the audio cues, but the physical representation on where he could be, so he can make his next move and decide what path he wants to take on Blood Run.
Yeah. I think Blood's certainly a good map, at least for it to start us up, right? We've seen some of the ridiculous Blood Run games we've had recently. I remember back on week 1 with 40, there were just some outrageous games going down. Blood Run always gives some spicy results, I'd say, at the most. There can certainly be slow grinds if the players are willing to take it that way. I think we had a game that was decided by basically one frag. It was an arduous one. We'll find out how today is going to be, Harry, if it is going to be different. You'd imagine the Polish Punisher would like to come out here absolutely swinging to start things off. Avek, I feel like in his current form, he's got a lot to prove. It's week 3. You're early enough in this stage that if he could start to go on a tear here and develop a big comeback, we could have a huge arc for him by the time we get towards the Stage 4 finals.
Avek is more than capable. He can maybe randomly beat some of the high-class top players. Sometimes he can't. It's just a matter of consistency and a matter of how much he can actually grind into the game and see what he can do. But this is a must-win for both of these players to start us off here.
You're right. Let's get straight into it then. Avek versus CNZ kick us off straight out the gate. CNZ spraying away, doing a nice amount of damage early on with the MG. Follows it up with the tri-bolt, just spamming. He was going for both of the major items, drops the totem currently. He's pushed. Avek straight back in. Nice info plays, and the movement's on point so far.
Avek right now is playing extremely aggressive, but now he's just trying to see if he can catch him out. He knows that CNZ likes to play quite defensive and slow in terms of how he wants to try and make his move. It's slow but decisive at the same time, but at least CNZ does have the info on him now, but he's going to bounce straight back up, and Avek does pick up that heavy, so we'll have to see what he can actually do here. May have to change his routine on how he wants to push up against him.
Oh, well, that's 2 totems down already, and we're only about 50 seconds in, so CNZ doing a good job of being able to pop him down, so we can soak up some more damage, but the only damage he's soaking right now is absolutely precise damage coming straight out from Avek into the face of CNZ. Obliterates him. Avek getting himself low, so we can pick up the mega help to make full use of that. Launching back up as well to gain both of the major items. Good rocket jump. And a clean steal.
It was. He kept that timing perfectly, and CNZ wasn't really too sure how he should even approach the heavy, or even if he should. I don't think he had the weaponry there, so he decided just to kick back for now and just wait for the time being. Let him get the items, and CNZ now needs to wait for his opportunity. He needs to try and get a couple of rails just to do enough chip damage and then try and catch him off guard. And it's going to be very hard for CNZ to try and contest any of these items, but you can see he tried to there, but I'm not sure it's going to work in his favour at all, as Avek almost manages to clean him up. He sits on a sliver of health, and finally, and passively, Avek must clean things up and get that second frag on the board.
So a good 2-0, a frag a minute so far, essentially. Taking out kneecaps with the railgun as he pops off a couple of shots, doing a little bit of damage against CNZ. He fully commits, actually turns around the corner and goes into that rocket, taking the full brunt of the damage and being slain.
Yeah, CNZ needs to contest it one way or another. I think he was hoping that Avek would just pull back randomly, but he had more than enough stack to even do anything there, and you can see the 2 totems there on the staircase, but it's not going to affect too much as Avek is just drilling him with that rail for the time being. But just going to see what he can do here. Does get the light for now and is waiting for that next mega to appear shortly. He's going to go for the heavy, which comes up in the next couple of seconds. And CNZ knows exactly what's going on. This is the routine that Avek's going to continue to grind with until the end of the game. It's just a matter of how CNZ can even try and contest it one way or another, but it looks like Avek will find him, does push in straight away. I don't think CNZ was even prepared for that. He was slightly, but he's going to find a huge amount of totems there. All 3 disappeared in an instant, and now CNZ looks like to be in even more trouble now as Avek's going to try and push forward. Fake orb does come in, but to see what he can do here as he does a little bit of damage, but CNZ falls back for the time being.
Well, if the bait play with the dire orb works out well, it's a bit of a mind game trick. He is doing a good job of at least clearing out these totems. There's only one of them back up currently. It's in the same angle once again. Now, a bit of a stalemate's occurred. So they're just lurking around. CNZ obviously biding his time. Avek, with a pre-fire. That was actually quite well timed. If you would have been there a second before, Harry, that would have been a bit of a shocker.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been too good, but Avek is still continuing with his routine at the time being. But as you can see, CNZ is trying to do everything he can. He can't do too much because he knows that Avek's so aggressive as the ult comes in and finishes him off nicely with the LG. 4-0 now, still early days, but CNZ needs to think of something quick as these totems are just getting destroyed like it's nothing. And have to change what he wants to do here to approach Avek and contest these items.
Like candy floss in water, Harry. It's just evaporated into nothing.
Definitely not wrong.
No, yeah. Seen the gif of the raccoon when that happens, and he just looks absolutely distraught. Oh, Avek's really putting out all the stops to the movements right now. He looks good. Like, in terms of his actual kind of, you know, his stature and the way he's gone into it on the server, he's looking very confident with how it's being played, Harry. Avek's certainly got a bit of a spring in his step. Will that be able to ride him through to victory, though? It's early doors, and especially on a map like this, there is opportunity for you to come back in and keep it close towards the late game if we see a change of pace and a change of play from CNZ. Although, Avek, with the dire orb, casting himself across after getting a huge tag out, leaves CNZ on a minute amount of health. He doesn't overcommit to the fight. He knows he's still got a large lead to work with, so he just backs off and plays it safe instead of just denting CNZ.
This is what I like about Avek as well. Even though his movement is very aggressive, his aim is very passive. So he'll put himself in the perfect situation, and then as soon as he has the rail out, he will literally just make sure he focuses on his aim and nothing else. He won't try and strafe too much. He seems very content in the way he's playing. It's one of those styles where it's very awkward to try and counteract, and I think that's the trouble CNZ is having. It's sometimes it can happen on certain maps, sometimes it can be all maps. It depends what kind of day you're having, but Avek's having a field day right now. But both do have a similar stacks, so as you can see, Avek was just trying to get the rail to see if he can fit in a bit of chip damage. But it won't be the case as both of them are waiting for the heavy and the mega. Avek will be getting that very shortly, but just take off guard a little bit here, gets a little bit of damage done for his troubles, but Avek's been very aggressive here as he's waiting for him to push that heavy, which he does get him, but he needs to be careful now. He's still quite weak in comparison in terms of the stacks, but again, another rail. This is ballsy play here.
Yeah, he's hitting some good shots. Oh, he's keen going into these. Dire Orb straight for the portal as well as a last-minute get-out-of-jail-free card to escape and now have to scavenge, looking for anything he can possibly find underneath the cupboards and under the sofa. Gets himself some health back and repositions once again. Playing for the audio cues. Knows where CNZ's coming from. Good pre-fire on the rocket as he darts back. Just watching towards the heavy spawn. It's going to need to be a nice little hurty-verty to punish. Oh, good connection. Couldn't quite get the follow-up though, Harry. That would have been damaging.
Definitely would, but Avek right now has been a machine with the rail. He's barely missed any shots. I'm interested to see his accuracy later on. And it's just giving CNZ so much trouble, so much chip damage, and he can progress here if he wants to, but decides not for the time being, as CNZ will probably play that defensive rocket game. But Avek waiting for that heavy to appear. CNZ does have a feeling that he could still be there, but as you can see, Avek's going to push straight in. Both have a similar stack. Avek is so desperate, but also cautious for that kill, depending on where he actually is on the map. But so far, well played. He's not at a massive disadvantage or advantage or anything like that. He's just chilling in the nail room, making sure he gets all the damage necessary. And just finding out exactly where CNZ's going. But he's playing this perfectly. It's pretty much textbook here.
Yeah, he's just got far too much control at this point. The issue is CNZ's leaving himself without really anything. He doesn't have a rowboat. He doesn't have an oar, Harry. He's just stuck in a creek. He's going to have no time left. We've got about 2 minutes left onto this one. It's only a 4-frag lead, which isn't crazy stacked, but it's certainly a bit too big if we get this low on time. The chase begins again. Avek's just running. That dire orb escape once again through the teleporter. He covers so much ground on this ranger. It's impossible for CNZ to really catch up. I don't know if I see this map going any other way, and that was sick. A good adjustment from Avek. Beautiful rocket. That was really nice. Oh, and again.
His defensive rockets have just been unbelievable. You are right, though. He is going up a certain creek without a paddle at this moment in time. But so far, so good. Avek just sitting in that nail room, and he knows that the best place on this map especially for audio cues or just listening out for any footsteps, is this side of the map. You can hear it from everywhere, especially with the status he's in at the moment. And he's just playing this remarkably. A lot of people will expect him to be on maybe the light armor or on the staircase, but instead he's just sitting there waiting on the hourglasses, knowing that he can just move away straight away. And he's just, like I mentioned before, it is textbook. He's doing this perfectly right. And it looks like now he's going to play the game where he's going to sit back at the telly, go through, and then keep making the guess. But I think it's too little too late. As every single time CNZ approaches him, Avek has just got his number every time, and he could be looking for that fifth frag, but CNZ decides not to, needs to pull back, and now is a lovely Orvir, tries to pick him off, which he does, increases his lead, and that is definitely going to be it for CNZ in map number 1.
Yeah, it's an Avek victory through and through. The issue with that is, though, I feel like at that point, Harry, for CNZ, you've got to realise it's time to cut your losses and change your playstyle, right, eventually. As Avek was literally just basically choking him out. He had a sleeper hold on him throughout the course of that map, and there was no way that CNZ could get back into the game. He was playing so passive and waiting for an opportunity. But if an opportunity is never going to arise, you've got to try and create one.
You certainly do. And you can see Avek managed to win that nice and easy. It was quite a comfortable victory. Managed to get a lot of damage done, even though the item count is quite similar. But as you can see from the rails, 62% for Avek. That's absolute madness. And to be fair for him, he played extremely well. It was, like I mentioned earlier, there was some playstyles. There's a numerous amount of playstyles, but the one he was playing, as well as him being super aggressive, his aim was very passive. It was a very defensive way where I feel like your aim improves a little bit if you're just chilling and waiting and just making sure you're waiting for the right moment, but not too careful so that you may panic and miss certain shots. You can just see that he was just waiting for each and every moment, every single time. It was more holding angles more than anything, and he did it the right moment at the right time, and it's his game sense as well. He did a few things, twice in a row, 3 times in a row, but at this level, you don't expect that. You normally think, okay, he's not going to be in the exact same place twice in a row. It's quite understandable, but he's going to throw him off guard here. He's playing some mind games. And you didn't really see too much in terms of the movement timers. They didn't try and throw each other off by delaying any items too much. It was just more the fact that, his aim was on point. The routes he was taken was remarkable. CNZ did have the same routine again and again, and you can see that Avek's got more than enough experience to try and tackle him down each time.
Yeah, it did feel like he read him. He understood the way he was playing, and Avek basically just starved him out, stopped him from being able to get into any positions to really play from. He was taking down the totems for the most part. He would find them as they were being stacked so closely clumped together every time, so we weren't really seeing overstack play a big helping hand and allowing that Galena to get much room into the game again. It just felt far too restricted, and by the time we saw a change of pace come out from CNZ, it was just way too late into the game. Moving away from that then into our second map, a bit of a change when it comes down to the champions. A lot more speed-centric this time around, Harry, as we have Anarchy for Avek and Strog and Pika for CNZ.
Yeah, it's like I mentioned earlier in the pre-game. It's more the fact that with the Strog, especially in CNZ's hands, he now has a wide variety of possibilities in terms of how he wants to try and sandwich his opponents or try and use any other additional strategies. It doesn't work too well maybe with a slash or anything like that, but with a Strog, it's probably the perfect mix, especially for a map like Ruins. If Avek tries to get away or plays the cat and mouse game or keeps CNZ with the 50-50 guessing, yeah, sure, fair enough, it may annoy CNZ to a certain degree, but at least he can get to certain spots a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently. And of course, with the Pika, with the extra 100 damage, it's just endless possibilities. It's quite difficult in certain scenarios where, okay, maybe if you've got the visor, fair enough, you've got the piercing sight, but you haven't got the speed necessary to try and trap him down. But as soon as he maybe, traps him, maybe the light armor, maybe where the hourglasses are on the top side near rockets or anything like that, then he's in the perfect position. But at least he now knows that he's got that speed control. But you got to remember with the Anarchy as well, it depends on the circumstances. It depends how the game actually starts off on this map.
Yeah, no, both of them certainly have a lot of rotation benefits, right? Like they're quick, especially just Ruins innately with the way the map's designed. It is quite fast to get that rotation from the Mega down to the Heavy room pretty quickly. So you can get an awful lot of map control. I feel like it'd be a slight edge towards Strog just because of how tight some of the turns are. So if you can crouch slide round going downstairs, it's probably a little bit more favorable. But the end of the day, let's find out how these two are individually going to make this duel stand out once we get into it. It is going to be Ruins of Sarnoff as our second map in the series. We're closing it down with Molten as the decider if we need it. Avek currently leads with 1 victory. Harry, do you see him getting a second here and taking it a 2-0, or do you think this is going to be more of a scrap to the third?
I expect this to be a bit more chaotic. You know, it's going to be a bit of a mess in certain areas, but we'll have to see exactly what happens. We love a chaotic mess anyway. You know, it's just one of our things we like to go to.
It's our forte.
Yeah, it is our forte. Yeah, exactly. I was trying to think of the word. I even use that word quite a lot, but, you know, not this time, man. Not this time, man. But yeah, I expect it to be quite messy in comparison from what we've seen from the last map. It's like I said before, it's more of a chase factor.
Yeah.
But CNZ knows how Avek plays, and he's hoping to get into his hands, and he has the right champion and the right map for it. So we'll have to see as we head into map number 2, and if CNZ could try and equalise here in the series.
Well, here we go then. No time to dilly-dally. We are into the action. Let's see how it is going to go. Starting off on CNZ with the Strog and Pika, so we get some crouch sliding action as he peers over the ledge initially. So he's starting to farm up a few of the weapons. He's got his railgun. He's just seen a shot from the rail from behind. Realizing that Avek was lurking on the lightning gun, he actually forces him out of the room, tagging him and knocking him back.
Needs to be careful here. Avek was...
What?
Wasn't really too sure of him, but it looks like CNZ isn't too happy about that last map. And 2 nice rails. LG to finish things off, and he's going to try and catch him off guard here again, which he does temporarily for the time being, but he hasn't got the weaponry, he's only got that tri-bolt. CNZ is trying to go back and forth, see if it can call him off in any way, shape or form, but decides to prioritise the items. Perfectly understandable. The last thing he wants is for Avek to get any kind of advantage here, but he's going to see if he can scout from the info, gets the info he requires. Avek's going to try and push around him. Not the best of decisions, but it doesn't matter. CNZ cleans up nicely and has got him pinned down once again for the third frag, possibly. Fuji has done. He's going to try and finish him off here, and he does. 3 frags already on the board for CNZ.
No, this is good. I mean, this is quite possibly the best start that he could hope for. A complete reset of the momentum on a map-by-map basis as well. Like, the one downside to this is he's already got himself 3 frags in the space of 1:30, right? That could have been the opening frag going the way of Avek. With the way he played it, if he would have hit that initial rail when he was in the LG room, then hit the follow-up, it would have been beautiful. Instead, he had 2 opportunities and 2 big blunders. So he needs to try and wipe that out of his memory, Harry. Get some composure back and continue on into the game. They're going to be fighting over control of the heavy. CNZ will drop down and try and scout it out, making an awful lot of noise. He's really trying to put the seeds of doubt in the mind of Avek. Stack-wise, Avek has done a good job of being able to scavenge that and get out. He is looping his way back over towards the mega room as well, but his timing's a little bit off. Got about another 5 seconds. Yeah,
those last 2 frags with CNZ had Avek got a bad spawn. You know, he had that tri-bolt spawn earlier, but as we go into the LG point that's come into play, Avek with a lovely rail there. So clean things up nicely once more, and this is his time for a comeback. We've seen him do some huge comebacks here on Ruins, so I wouldn't be surprised if he did it again. Stacks are even, not anymore, with again a lovely rail. He's trying to go for a second one. Doesn't quite get it, but like I mentioned earlier, yeah, Avek knows he had his 2 tri-bolt spawns. He had a 50-50, decide whether he should go for the light armor or go through the teleport to rockets. Made the wrong decision twice. That wasn't really game sense, it's more pot luck. Wasn't really in his favour, but he can definitely come back here with some weapons in his arsenal. And was stacked to boot as well with that inject. So he's got the rockets finally. And now we can see what we can do here as he pushes on forward.
Avek on the drive-by rail as he dishes out a small love tap onto CNZ. CNZ now quite supple, soft and broken around the edges. His hard exterior has been shattered as he just has a little bit of HP left to work with. Avek bouncing past the heavy will realise, grab that boy and slap it on his chest, and now look to go for a bit of a scrap. Takes a Pika to the face as he pushes himself over, peering over the ledge to look to try and punish with a railgun, but no opportunity will present itself. Instead, he keeps on moving though, bouncing around. He's caught a whiff of CNZ's location, and he gets up close and personal. Initiation rocket goes out, there's no tag. Peaks on the rail, good damage done. He knows he's low, he's just got to finish him. But doesn't want to take too much damage on the exchange. And he plays it perfectly, Harry. That's clean, doesn't take any damage from that.
That was beautiful stuff, and Avek now is just on the warpath here. Getting a slight inkling of what he could be doing, but that's a perfect rotation and flank. He goes straight with that LG and injects a boot. Great stuff there from Avek. He was trying to hopefully predict that CNZ would go up that lift and flank round from Heavy, which he did. Great prediction, great game sense. CNZ's a little bit of trouble here as he tries to contest to Heavy, doesn't get it, and now CNZ is in a bad place at a bad time and managed to gain the lead. He's going to try and maybe think about seeing if you can get him on the spawn. CNZ, you saw there, waiting on spawn for a little bit, hoping that Avek would look away, but Avek was being extremely patient and well disciplined. On spawn, but it's pinned it down once more, but would he get another frag on the boards? The inject comes in, Pika comes in, but Avek decides to back off for now to get the next Heavy and continue on.
If he was being well-behaved before, now is his opportunity to be a very naughty schoolboy, though, and break the rules as he pushes back in. Look at all the damage he's doing, Harry. He's breaking the windows with rocks. He's an absolute madman as he shatters his way through CNZ, leaving him laid out lifeless on the ground. 5-3 now. Considering the start we had from CNZ, this has been a really good turnaround for Avek, right? He's now got a firm grasp on the game. He's got control of the items as well. So much chip damage done at every opportunity, even if CNZ isn't looking for a fight. He's actively just trying to run. Avek is hitting these shots. I was curious to see if we're actually going to have him peek over the wall. Instead, knowing that Mega's up, he loops back around to force CNZ out of position. It's only going to take one more shot, and it's rail after rail from Avek. Oh, he's like a train, Harry.
Literally is, and CNZ right now is riding that struggle bus as he's trying to figure out exactly what he can do for his next move, but drops down probably in the worst time possible. Avek again increasing his lead further, continuing to pick up that Heavy. But what can CNZ do here? The only problem with him right now is the fact that with the chip damage he's creating, or causing, shall I say, he's missing a few of these important rails to keep Avek back. Avek, you know, it's like, as soon as he gets one rail or anything like that, he's charging in like a madman. You can't stop him. It's literally impossible, to say the least. And it's the important rails like that where CNZ needs to try and hit. But also CNZ becoming quite predictable, where Avek's like almost downloaded him fully. You know, he's hitting that 99%. He's going to hit the 100 at some stage once you figure out even further. But what can CNZ do here? He's only got 3 minutes left on the clock. Avek finds him again! Absolute filth. Another lovely rail there from Avek.
Man, he's doing so well on the railgun side of things today. Like, he is just single-handedly controlling the entire map with his rail. So he's done 1.1k damage. He's had 51% accuracy right now and had 5 frags alone with the railgun. It's been such a big set piece to him. And when he needs to get up close and personal, of course, it just comes down to the LG. The tracing's there. He's very precise in his current mood, and it's been beautiful to watch. He's just completely destroying CNZ. At this rate, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a 2-0 on the maps. And then Molten Falls was really a battle for dominance out of the both of them in that last-ditch attempt for CNZ. Because Avek, he is farming points here. Finally an encounter that looks like it could go the way of CNZ, though, as they launch themselves into Mortal Kombat around the Heavy, Harry. But the rockets work out better for Avek once again. He sends himself flying as well. Propulsion on point to take the peak. Oh, Avek. Oh, this is just naughty. He has ram-raided his way into Mega and killed CNZ.
This man needs to calm down. I said it's a must-win for him. He's obviously heard me and gone, okay, right, no worries. You know, I'll win this for us, don't worry. But CNZ, there's nothing he can do at this point. It's way too late. The only thing he can do is completely change his style and just go full-on aggro and try and hope for the best in terms of his aim and what he wants to do. But he can't do anything at this point. Avek's not giving him any kind of opportunity. I said it in the first map on Blood Run. I think it was around the second or third frag. I noticed straight away he's got that super aggressive style, but he's got that content passive aim. And it's so difficult to beat. And again, another rail, another clean kill there from Avek. If he's going to play like this, like with a content aim and super aggression with his movement and strategic movement at best, I think this could be a 3-0.
Yeah, it really should be at this point. But the way Avek's playing it, he's just been countering everything CNZ's doing. CNZ really doesn't seem like he has the confidence to go into some of these fights as well. And also, I don't even know if he did, if it would make a difference, Harry, because Avek's rail has been such a big set piece. Not even just from the raw frags he's found, but from the chip damage from a distance, right? That's been one of the huge pieces in his kit. We've seen a bit of bloodlust coming out in the final few seconds here for CNZ at least, but that's all it is. A bit of a flash in the pan.
CNZ, he looked extremely confident at the start of this map. We felt like this could be a nice way to rebound, retaliation from what he had to deal with in Blood Run. But no, sadly not. Avek is definitely a mentality destroyer. When you think you're going to do well or get something done here, no, Avek just, he doesn't care how you're feeling. It's all about himself and what he needs to do to progress further. But only 5 seconds remaining left on the clock. It is going to be done and dusted. That's the second map in favor of Avek once again. Avek again showing us what he's capable of, and it's definitely one of his better maps. And looking at the percentage, CNZ, he does have a 63% accuracy, but he didn't really shoot as much as Avek with 41 rails, 48%. Phenomenal stuff from him. We can't really complain about anything he did because he kind of noticed that Avek knew exactly where CNZ was going to go, what his path is, what routes he's going to take. He always knew that he was going to drop to heavy, and if it's not there, he's going to go up the pad lift every single time. And yeah, it was just great stuff. Always at the right time, the right moment, and CNZ just run out of options.
Yeah, he played it perfectly. Like, understanding-wise, it's in the sense of, you know, the two styles of Quake, really. You can either play the map or play the player, and he completely outplayed the player in that sense. He was stopping him from getting any footing onto the map at all. Ruins was the home territory of Avek. The railgun shots were absolutely sickening over the course of the game as well. Big stuff from the Polish Punisher. That is him winning the series, 2-0 so far. And there is still a final map to go. Molten Falls will be the decider, really, in the sense of if CNZ can get any points at all out of this, or if this is going to be the full amount given to Avek. And this late into the competition, here in Stage 4 as well, the points are so big. If you take a 3-0, Harry, you gain a ridiculous amount from it.
And that's why people like Avek are giving it their absolute all right now. Not even just every series, every map matters at this point, especially with Stage 4. But the way Avek's playing, it just looks like it's going to be a 3-0 series. CNZ, I know he's a great player. I don't like to slate him or put him down because I know what he's capable of. But it depends what kind of Avek day you get, really. But so far, this is a Avek day he did not want to match him in at all. He's just playing absolutely in a phenomenal way. And it's just a shame because CNZ, you can see what some of his plans were, some of the routes he wanted to take. But he just ran out of options. Avek just had his number. And it's what I mentioned earlier, where a few months ago, CNZ was the kind of player where he'd focus on other people's mistakes and try and work on them rather than work on himself. You can see he's made quite a few improvements, but not enough to maybe topple in this series. But we'll have to see going forward.
Yeah, I mean, Molten Falls being that last really, tipple to see if he can topple. Eisen for Avek, BJ for CNZ. So, in sense of the champion picks alone, there's not really much that's going to alter the flow of the game this time around. Obviously, you've got the turret for Eisen, you've got a little bit of map control there if you want to try and throw it down when you're battling over a major item, or potentially drop it on one of the bounce pads to be annoying. That's probably your best bet. Same could be said for BJ though, really, right? We mostly, on a map like Molten, only see that akimbo being used to try and lock down major item control and just ward other people off going for major items to try and scare them. So I think this is really going to be a raw aim battle for the most part. And coming down to that point, Harry, I've got to give that favour entirely to Avek.
Yeah, we haven't seen any scale bearers, haven't seen any slashes, which is quite rare. But these picks, understandable. Of course, with the BJ, you want to... I think CNZ has a plan up his sleeve here. I think he's going to be focusing on certain parts on the map where they're quite narrow and quite hard to get away from, just so he can use his active ability straight away and dual wield. But then again, you're right, though. With Avek, he's clearly chosen Eisen to lock down some of the items, so at least the turret can give damage or tank some damage, depending on the circumstance of what he wants to do. But we will head into this last map series, and already the battle's commenced. But both players decided to back off for the time being. CNZ has a better stack, but at least Avek has the heavy to complement himself and try and heal up a little bit more with the orbs. But as you can see, just watching CNZ now, just deciding what he wants to do. Just waiting for that next light to appear and go for the additional mega in the next 10 seconds. So quite patient for now, considering the start we saw as Avek's going to come up on the lift. He's not going to know But CNZ was waiting there the entire time. The tri-bolt comes out. But CNZ is so weak at this point, he can't fight. He's railable, isn't in a position to try and make anything happen, but at least gets the heavy for his troubles. But another bout does commence. But CNZ gets away for now.
Ooh. Turning the corner. Avek. Again with the early game frag. As he stuns CNZ. Puts us into the 1-0 lead early on. Only 60 seconds into the game. He's still got his turret as well, but that's going to be thrown out. On top of the Mega! Oh, CNZ just tanking through it. Absolutely annihilated Avek there. That was a quick death. Very clean. He's been pretty damn precise with some of the shots he's hitting. Pushes down and bullies him off of the heavy as well. He now has the opportunity to use that dual wield to force him back. Didn't get as much damage as he probably wanted out of that one. The dual tri-bolt, if you can connect with those, you can absolutely melt your opponent. But in the end, one lightning gun's all it takes.
That was a great frag. Let's see CNZ there. Like you mentioned before, he was looking for the frag earlier. He was expecting or assuming that Avek would be sitting on the health orb, trying to decide whether he's picked up the heavy or not. But Avek didn't fall for it. He had a feeling that as soon as the ult came in, he left it. But look at the damage CNZ has done, but he's taking this huge risk here. But for the time being, the turret does go down, and CNZ is in a beautiful spot here. He's in a perfect position to try and make something happen, but this tanks a lot of damage going through, but Avek's not going to fall for that at all. He's waiting for the dual wall to disappear. CNZ was hoping that Avek would eventually peek in so he can decide if he needs to rotate round or not, but no, he was very clear cut. Decided to just sit there the entire time, which is understandable, but I think the bout may appear here, but Avek's got a feeling it's going to be there. Backs off, takes down the turret. Oh, Avek even try and push this. A beautiful rocket, tries to get the rail straight afterwards, but decides not to, as CNZ's going to stay above him and keep that height advantage for the time being.
CNZ shoots off the warning shots with the tri-bolt as he casts himself back across, waiting towards the heavy spawn. Got about 8 seconds till it's up. Rockets bursting in air all around him, forcing him back. Here comes the dual wield. 2 rocket launchers and way more proficient than one. Sees the totem going down, so decides to get out of there and take the high ground himself, essentially impaling himself on top of Avek to find the frag. That's now a 2-frag advantage. We're only 3 minutes into the game as well, and there's been a lot more carnage here. It's been way more aggressive than what we had. This is looking more akin to an actual duel. They are trading blows pretty much every time they go for that Mega. But CNZ's the one that always comes out on top right now, Harry. The momentum is firmly in his court.
You're not wrong there, as Avek is now the one who's running out of options. I wouldn't say running out of options, but is still trying to feel out the game for the time being. CNZ seems to be playing a lot more aggressive. He seems to have his number on certain areas, and even though he hasn't abused much of the dual wield, he's used it as a pressure of presence there. So even though, okay, yeah, sure, fair enough, he won't do as much damage, at least he's getting something done with it, as he managed to push him off the map anyway, so that will be a trade coming in. But I think CNZ will take that any day, to say the least. But yeah, you're right. The dual wield hasn't been as effective, but at least it's on Avek's mind, so we hear it coming. He knows it's fair. It's just more of a map presence thing where he can at least keep him back to threaten if Avek's going to play aggressive. This could be another frag for Avek if he try and keeps it up. Yes, it is. Great stuff there from Avek on clean-up duty to try and maybe pave a path to catch up here in the scoreline.
Avek, on the other hand, with this rocket right now, looking very consistent. Tag after tag, knocking him up and keeping him in the air. And now just trying to slam him back down to reality. But he can't actually find the frag. He got him low, 13 HP, but no kill. CNZ fighting tooth for now. And by the skin of his teeth, barely gets by, winning that one with the nail gun. That's absolute madness. That's a 3-frag difference now. 6-3. And he's still getting off the pot shots. He is low on stack, though. And he gets sidelined. Avek with a backstab. It almost seemed like CNZ just didn't expect it.
Yeah, he was actually quite weak, and the only way Avek was going to kill him was with a perfect rocket. It was on 100 HP and managed to take him down with that perfect rocket. But he might be catching him off guard here once again as that's going to push straight in. The Rockets haven't been in his favour too much until towards the end. And it looks like it will be caught off guard once more. As it's 7-4 now for CNZ. And CNZ has a stack to boot. Surely he's going to take him down here. Yes, he does. Even if Avek got one more rail off, he still would have survived with a few seconds to spare to try and give him a bit more time to try and clean up. But he needs to get away now. 4 minutes left remaining. CNZ looking very good here. And that 3-0 series we kind of predicted, falling straight through, it looks like.
CNZ with the railgun as he makes his move, bouncing around like a ball of terror, busts out the shotty and introduces him to Avek, cleaning him up, all of the pellets going straight through, making easy work of him. CNZ miles ahead here now, Harry. 9-4, a huge scoreline to play with. Oh, and the rocket is absolutely sublime. He's left him looking like Avek sandwiches.
It's a completely different version of CNZ from what we've seen earlier. Avek will be kicking himself if he loses this map because he probably wishes for a 3-0, but I'm sure he'll take a 2-1 nonetheless if that does occur. But there's still 3 minutes left remaining. There's still room for him to try and get something happening here, but Avek's making the right play. He needs to be super aggressive, and that's 1 frag down, so at least then he has 5 more. He has to stack. And if you look at the items in terms of the timings, it's the perfect timing for Avek to pick up both of them every single time. Just keep grabbing that heavy, then getting the mega 11-12 seconds later. It's the perfect routine, and as long as CNZ knows that routine, then he should be in a great spot to try and get a rough idea on exactly what routes he's going to take in order to try and contest them. But will the rail come through? Yes, it will. So Avek, slowly but surely catching up, but we'll have to see over these next couple of minutes what he can do.
So currently right now CNZ is 11 heavies ahead. Sorry, 11 lights ahead and 6 heavies. In terms of the mega, it's actually really close. It's been back and forth the entire time it's been spawned in, so they're on equal footing. It's mostly just been dominance for CNZ towards the heavy room. That's where he's been able to pick it up and link things together every time and force Avek off at the point. Avek right now, though, able to get himself one, brings his grand total up to 5, and this could give him a bit more of a spring in his step as his stack's looking a bit bigger. Timing-wise, it's perfect as well to get back over here by Mega. It's up in 1 second, so we can wait. And now, with a gigantic stack, he can go full bombastic in for the fight against CNZ and be confident that he can blow him to pieces without taking much damage. He does take a fair bit, though, from that encounter, but finds success in the frag department. He needs to chain these together, however, Harry. His time is ticking away. We're close towards the 60-second mark, and he still needs a bundle of frags to get himself tied up.
There's 3 things the turret will do. Either feed damage, tank damage, or feed you info. And that was the exact info Avek needed. As he has left another turret behind. But does have a rough idea on exactly where CNZ is as the hunt is on. The chase begins, but will he be able to take him down here? He has a slightly better stack, but much better after that first rail. Will he try and go for the second as the rockets do come in and takes him down? Only 2 frags left between these 2 players. But only 40 seconds left on the clock. It's definitely doable. But it depends on the turret placement and where he can get this info. But he's looking everywhere for him. That way it was so important. He's only got 30 seconds. He's got to be super quick here. Avek realises this. But CNZ is just making great rotations and is just dilly-dallying around back and forth from the health orb area. But surely he's going to get taken down here. He's just doing his absolute best to survive, and he doesn't. CNZ manages to take him down. I think that's all but done now here, Jack.
Oh, man. He had like a full 30 seconds when the first peak came out and he could have got the kill with a rail. But CNZ literally just did the dozy-do, Harry, and just danced back and forth, cha-cha-charing across the map and There was nothing from Avek. He couldn't hit the shots. Unfortunate. In the overall grand scheme of things, though, that's only one map for CNZ, right? So all that means really is that he starved Avek out from getting the mother load of points, from getting a full 3-0. Instead, it's just a series win with a 2-1 split. Not the worst thing in the world. Definitely a good return to form for CNZ on Molten, at least. I was worried that we'd see him struggle throughout the entire series. And it's not akin to his normal character, because that's the level we know he can play to.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shame, really. I think CNZ did the tango with Avek enough to be able to delay things further. So even if he did get taken down, I think Avek would have had about 10 seconds. Definitely more than enough time to try and take him down or trap him in any way, shape, or form. But the only problem is the fact that if he started LGing him or railing him, then, he's going to have a bit more speed to try and bounce off of to try and get away. So it was a must frag there. Didn't get it. It was a shame. We saw Avek was, maybe if he had a few more minutes, it could have been a completely different story. But yeah, and the best bit was, even during that moment where they were dilly-dallying around the bottom mega kind of area where the health orbs were, he just wanted to try and delay things enough so that even if he does frag him, it didn't matter. But he did. CNZ did his job perfectly, but Avek was definitely on the comeback there. He knew that there was no way he can even try and make any kind of attempt there. As you can see for the item control, 20 light armors there. That's absolute madness there from CNZ. It's just trying to be as much of a pain in the backside as possible. But in terms of the major items, very similar.
Yeah, I mean, that was the key difference, right? Is like he was effectively starving him out for a lot of the lights and the heavies. It was only towards the end of the game that there was actually any type of resurgence for Avek where he was getting heavies back. Before that point, it was basically, if CNZ wants it, he's going to take it. Series-wise, it's interesting that actually overall, it's way closer than I actually thought it would be, considering how dominant it was for Avek, right, in those initial two maps. Major item-wise, it's not that much of a stark contrast. I mean, the big contrast is, I suppose, look at the rail damage.
1662. Literally, both of these players have had a very high accuracy in terms of it. Like, it's not like they've been shooting like 15 or 20. They've been shooting around the 30-40 mark in most of these maps. And, if it was like 60% or 62%, okay, that's kind of understandable. But you got to understand that, with these champions, they're like medium-sized champions. You'd expect them to hit at least 40 or 50. We've seen like players like Cypher where he had like 65% rail percentage on the slash in Molten Falls. That was ridiculous. I'm not sure when we'll see anything like that happen again due to the speed, her agility, and her hitbox being so small. But yeah, having at least 60 plus for both of these players, you can see they both had the right content. CNZ had the same situation as the second map where he had a great start. He became very predictable halfway through, but with CNZ this time round, he wasn't as predictable. Avek didn't download him as quick as he did in that second map. With Molten Falls, it's a bit harder because it's more of that cat and mouse kind of game, where you've got to try and hunt him down and see what you can find any kind of information. But CNZ was actually changing his paths on exactly where and what he wants to do and how he wants to go about doing it. So managed to waste enough time, because if he didn't and he played it like the second map, it could have been the opposite way around. It could be him chasing for Avek to try and at least gain the control and win that map number 3.
Yeah, no, overall, though, a great series. Obviously, well played to CNZ into the final map, but for Avek, a huge series win, taking it 2-1 overall. And that is only our first series of the night. Of course, an awful lot more to go here on week 3 of Stage 4 of the Quake Pro League. Keep it locked here on twitch.tv/Quake when we return after the break for more exhilarating action.